Hello, everyone. My name is Farida Badamosi, and I'm the senior programmer at the Athena Film Festival. On behalf of Barnard College and Women in Hollywood, it is my honor to welcome you to the 12th Annual Athena Film Festival. Oh, before I go into all of the amazing thank yous, I should do an audio description of myself. As I said, my name is Farida. I am a brown-skinned woman. I have locks that are in a messy bun, wearing gold earrings, an orange turtleneck because it's freezing. Behind me is a very ugly colored background that I should probably fix, and a black leather thing that I am sitting behind. And again, I just want to say on behalf of Barnard and Women in Hollywood, it really is great to have everyone here for the 12th Annual Film Festival. The festival is dedicated to celebrating the stories of bold, courageous women leaders and the filmmakers who bring these stories to life. This year's festival would not be possible without the support of our dedicated sponsors. Please join me in thanking Athena's founding sponsor, the Artemis Rising Foundation, and its CEO and founder, Regina K. Scully, whose visionary leadership makes our work possible. To all of our sponsors, whose names you will see before each film and event, thank you for your commitment to challenging our culture to be more inclusive and inspiring audiences in the process. So I'm very excited to have you all here for this amazing Q&A. The moderator for this Q&A will be Genesis, my amazing colleague. So I'm excited for Genesis to turn it over to Genesis. And I'm sure this is going to be an absolutely wonderful conversation. So I'm going to disappear now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Genesis Quito. I'm the Post-Baccalaureate Fellow at the Athena Film Festival. I'm sitting in an orange chair. I have black hair. I'm wearing a white sweatshirt with black stripes on it. And behind me, there is a corkboard and a white wall. And I would like to introduce our filmmakers and guests for this short program. I will start off with Denali. Denali, please introduce yourself and your film.
Hi, my name is Denali Tiller. I am the director of the short film Little Sparks, and I'm very excited to have one of our film participants here with us as well, Tatiana and her parents. I am a white woman with blonde shoulder-length hair. I'm wearing a black turtleneck, and I was told that my camera is very clear, so I guess you can see me very well. And I have some plants in the background from my home office.
Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Tatiana, the participant of Little Sparks. Tatiana, can you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Tatiana, and my film is The Little Sparks, and I have a purple sweater and a bright smile and computers and black chairs behind me and a white wall.
Thank you. I'll now pass it over to Lara Arts.
Hi, I'm Lara Arts. I'm the director of Girls Boys Mix. I'm sitting in front of a white wall. I'm wearing a gray turtleneck. I have brownish hair. And that's it.
Thank you. Alex, please take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex Mahawi-Ho. I directed Anawenti, which translates to Me and You. I'm also sitting in front of a white wall. I have about shoulder-length black wavy hair. I have silver-colored aviator glasses, gold earrings, and a black turtleneck. And my skin is a light olive color.
Thank you. Paulina?
Hi everyone, my name is Paulina. I am the producer of Anawenti, translated to Me and You. I am a white woman with really long blonde hair, wearing a white turtleneck. In the background, I have some old cream/green polka dotted wallpaper that should also probably change. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Carmen?
Hi there, my name is Carmen Pollard, and I am the director of the film Militant Mother. I'm sitting in my edit suite with a bouquet of flowers behind me that was actually given to me by my mother just on Sunday for my birthday. I have brown hair, long brown hair and white complexion. And I'm wearing a black sweater.
Thank you, Carmen. Happy late birthday. So I wanted to begin by starting asking everyone what inspired you to create these films. I'll begin with Denali, and then we can go in the order of Lara, Alex, Polina, and Carmen.
This is Denali. I was actually contacted by Tatiana's school, Zeta Charter Schools, and they, so many children were really struggling during the pandemic with remote learning and, having access to the resources that they needed. And so they really wanted to help shed light on what kids were going through during this unprecedented time that now is feeling more and more like the normal. But I know, Tatiana, you're back in person now, right? In school? Yeah. So yeah, we spent a little bit of time in December with Tatiana and Kaden and Cassandra, and just had them kind of show us their worlds and their lives and their remote school setups, and just really kind of got a glimpse into what kids were dealing with.
Awesome, thank you for that. Lara? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I went to how do you say that? A demonstration for human rights, for LGBTQIA plus rights, and there was a group of intersex people walking and demonstrating, and there was one child, Wen Long, and she was marching in front of the troops carrying a big flag, and she was not scared to talk about her intersex, whereas other children and a lot of adults are still quiet about it. So that inspired me to make a documentary about her that relates her story.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, I made my film. Oh, I guess I should start with a little bit about me. I'm Palestinian Chinese, a first-gen Palestinian, second-gen Chinese American. And I mean, growing up and still now, I really rarely see representation for the Arab community that's at least positive in news, media, film, TV, anything really. And in this post 9/11 world, I found that the community was really pigeonholed regarding how we were portrayed, and that typically really the lives of women in the community are never really explored, at least past, just kind of the side characters or just the mother or the daughter characters without much depth. So I wanted to make a film about mothers and daughters, hopefully with depth. And I was raised primarily by my Arab side, raised by really strong, powerful women who immigrated to this country and made a life for themselves here. My grandmother came here not speaking English. She taught herself how to read and write. And so I wanted to make a film about that experience and what it was kind of like growing up also in between cultures and what it means to be Arab American.
Thank you for sharing that context. Clearly you had like a very personal connection to the story, so that anyone who's seen the film can understand that. And Polina, do you have, what was the connection for you to get on board with this film?
Well, Alex and I kind of have been making things together through college since the moment we sat next to each other in our like foundational filmmaking class. So it was no hesitation whatsoever when it came to making this film along with her. I also come from an international background. I grew up in 4 different countries. So naturally, as a creator, I'm really drawn to stories that highlight diverse perspectives, especially talking about and showcasing untold perspectives and cultures. Echoing everything that Alex has already said, like that's a really important goal, and I really shared her vision for it. So no hesitation whatsoever, wanted to support my girl.
And it's always awesome when you meet filmmakers that have been collaborators since like the early days of school. Carmen?
Yeah, well, I've been living in the community where the pedestrian bridge that is sort of centered in our story is, and had been accessing that bridge for nearly 20 years before I heard about the extraordinary story of how it came to be. It's a very humble pedestrian bridge that crosses between Vancouver's largest social housing project and the elementary school that services not only that housing complex, but also the entire neighborhood, which has historically been the most marginalized neighborhood in Vancouver. As I said, I've been using the bridge for nearly 20 years. And then I heard about Carolyn Jerome and a group of single moms who had moved into the housing project just after it had been built. And shortly after discovered, they could see from the windows of their apartments that their children were actually having to climb over sometimes slow-moving train cars, sometimes idling train cars in order to get to school. And they went and, they of course approached our local government. They approached the provincial government. They did everything they could. They approached the train company to come up with a solution, because obviously this was very unsafe for the children. And their requests were ignored and pushed off, and they weren't taken seriously because they, were single moms who weren't considered important enough, and these children weren't considered important enough to need to have a safe crossing for their kids. So when I first heard about the story, I thought this would be an incredible documentary. I did some research, found that there was a lot of archival footage, and there was a lot of newspaper articles and various stories that had been written throughout history, and never from the perspective of the mothers themselves. And sort of in the middle of the pandemic, Hot Docs put an open call out looking for stories that center civic engagement. And I thought this was a perfect story, and pitched it, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it sounds like it was like the perfect opportunity to screen this story that you connected to just by seeing the overpass. And now I would like to specifically ask each filmmaker and their participants one specific question related to each film. So I guess I'll start with Little Sparks. And obviously, a lot of the shooting must have taken place, like not necessarily during quarantine, but still like lockdown and during online learning environments. So my question for you, Denali, would be, what kind of challenges did you run into having to film in like close quarters inside the homes of the families, and just placing cameras in front of children, which you might be familiar with, but this is like a specific circumstance that hasn't really happened before. At least I can't remember the last pandemic, but yeah, just feel free to like let me know like what your experience was with that.
Yeah, we were shooting in I guess that was December 2020, right? December and January. So that was before vaccines were available. We definitely, mostly just followed all the COVID protocols and guidelines at the time, made sure to get tested before. I think filming in the school was the most challenging, just because they had a lot of, they had been able to stay open, particularly for kids who might not have as many resources or supports at home. So kind of prioritizing children that, really could benefit from going into school with limited numbers. But due to their protocols, we were only allowed to be in each classroom for 10 minutes. And it wasn't like 10 minutes and then go like leave and then come back. It was like 10 minutes total. So we were kind of like had to be super strategic about, what we were filming, and kind of like switched off who was going. Like, my DP would go in and then I would go in and then the producer would go in. So we could kind of get a little bit more time through that. And then, I mean, I love working with kids. Tatiana, I had so much fun working with you. I actually directed a feature that premiered in 2018 about 3 young children who had parents that were incarcerated. So had kind of spent many years following them. And so it's pretty natural for me to come in, and I think sometimes the adults in the room are like, "Are you sure you want like you don't want to like have a adult conversation?" I'm like, "No, I'm good. We could just play, go on a bike ride. We have this bike ride on Tatiana." So it was really fun.
Awesome, thanks. And Lara, you also were working with a child. So as you said, Wen was just very outspoken and authentic. And I was wondering if there was anything you had to do throughout the process of filming or developing the film to try to make the story stay true specifically to Wen's perspective. And because I feel like there is the things that Wen has been told, the facts that she shares about being intersex, and then there's also just what she thinks about it, right? So was there anything that you had to like maybe try to filter out to make it seem like this is a true child's perspective on in this story?
I don't really understand the question. If I have to filter out things?
Yeah, or like what did you have to cut out? Because I feel like trying to get a story, just okay, how about this? Like how did you try to get the story from Wen? What was that process like? Because
Oh yeah, I can tell something about this. Like I knew her for 2 years before we started filming. So I went to visit a lot. She lives in the States now, but she used to live on a small island in the north of Holland. So you have to go there by ferry. It's really picturesque. And it's all filmed on that island. And it's really, there's a lot of nature, sheep, beach, dunes, and she really likes nature, and she's really comfortable there. And for me, that symbolized the naturals, the fact that intersex is a natural thing, and that the whole divide between men and women and boys and girls, that's something that society created, which you can see when you go into shops or shopping malls or whatever, or hairdressers or sports clubs. There you see the division. So in order to I wanted to show both things, like intersex being something really natural, and also the artificial binary world that we created. And, I got this idea during the research. So I knew her for 2 years. I visited a lot. I spoke to her off record, on record. I taped the interviews we had. So I really got to know her. So then once we started filming, I knew exactly what we needed to film to show her perspective. So that's
awesome. Yeah, the distinction between the constructed binary and what is natural like definitely comes across in the film. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, welcome.
I wanted to ask the Anawa entity, what can you say about like the story of Amira? It's in a way, it felt to me like a coming of age story, similar to these other films where it's about people learning how to express themselves. But for Amira, she's in a very different stage. She's not a child and she's not a teenager, but she's still a daughter. So what can you share about like why specifically Amira is, a teacher at that particular stage in her life.
Poe, do you mind if I take this one first? Cool. Yeah, I deliberately really wanted Amira to be an older daughter, I guess is the best way to put it. She's in her 30s in the film. And I really wanted to reflect women that I had seen in my family and even myself as a daughter. And the idea for me, behind that was that you never stop being a daughter. And I feel like in Arab culture in particular, there is kind of the sense that you have to choose between individuality and family and culture occasionally. And sometimes that can be a very difficult discussion, and that can be really the make or break with family members. So I wanted to put Amira in this hard position of she's an adult woman. She knows what she wants. She knows how to live her life and how she wants to live her life. Yet she still is bound by duty, bound by culture, by love to her mother. And her mother is a little bit more traditionally conservative in ways, but she at the same time loves her daughters. So the idea is, how can their relationship transcend these boundaries put in place by culture, by duty, by family, and how can Amira find who she is as a woman and still kind of respect her mother also as her mother and also love her culture, which is a struggle that I've had as well, growing up in the States. And, my family has been extremely kind of, I guess, progressive with how I've chosen to live my life. But it's certainly not typical, I would say. And we've definitely had some hard discussions about, what I want versus what's expected of me, what's appropriate, things like that. Paulina, do you want to add anything?
I mean, echoing what you said, I think the fact that it's not necessarily a teenager coming of age, but like you said, it's an older woman who is sort of has her 2 feet on the ground, but yet she still has the family anchor and trying to find the balance. I think it just adds the whole complexity of how does that relationship look like in a mother-daughter films is something that we don't see that often. So I think it's just, highlighting this perspective, like at the end of the day, like Alex said, we're all daughters. Our mothers are always going to see us as their young little babies. So it's just finding that balance.
Thank you. And now I guess I'm jumping to the militant mother instead of moving on from daughters. Carmen, my question for you is really it's really about Carolyn. Like, she is such an interesting subject. So I was wondering, how did seeing herself in this short, maybe change her perspective? Like, what was her reaction when you first showed this film to her?
Yeah. Well, Carolyn is a very outspoken, incredible activist and community member. I mean, I was just out with her yesterday at the site because she's planning another protest. Well, not really a protest, but a celebration of the mothers, or the 50th anniversary. But also, she wants to block the road that's beside the footbridge now because there's so much traffic. And once again, there's children who are crossing now the footbridge to get home from school and having to navigate some, really dangerous traffic. And she doesn't live in the community anymore. She lives on Vancouver Island. But she still is, I think she's 80 now, and she's just incredibly driven and incredibly moved to create change for the community. And it's really quite remarkable watching her in action. And when I first showed her the film, I mean, she was I really, as a documentary filmmaker, I always sort of see creating these films and the storytelling as a collaborative process. I see the people in the film as participants, as collaborators, not as subjects. When I first approached her and asked her if she wanted to collaborate with me to tell her story and to tell the story of the militant mothers, it's not only her story, it's a shared story. She was, understandably needed to get to know me, needed to figure out what it was that I was suggesting, and but very quickly we hit it off and were able to work together to create the film and to tell the story. So I don't think she was particularly surprised when she saw the edit. She was happy, but she's also like many of us, it was a little bit, it's always a little hard to look at yourself on screen for that long and hear your voice for that long. So that was her only sort of criticism or response, was like, oh, I can't stand hearing my voice. But other than that, she was pretty happy with the way the story was put together, and just the the images of the children and some of the other material that she hadn't been a part of filming.
Thank you. I'm so glad you still like regularly see Carolyn, and I actually really liked her voice, so that's interesting.
Love her voice. I agree. Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you, Tatiana, and Priscilla and Sean, if there was any way in which watching this film changed your perspective on the experience of on the struggle of at-home learning.
You want to answer that, or you want me to answer?
I'll answer it.
Yeah, answer.
So I was working in the hospital, and he was in and out, coming like from out of different states. And he's an engineer, so he was traveling while Tatiana was. Sometimes when they're open, she'll go into school, and then she'll have to remote and go back home. My shift then was midnight to 8 in the morning, so it's really, really hard. But going based off of the struggle, the struggle I'm sure millions went through, and are probably still going through, even though stuff has reopened. I think it actually showed us and gave us an eye opener to appreciate what we have and living forward. And Tatiana, 2 years ago, she was only 5. So going through that as a 5-year-old was really hard for her. But now growing and getting older, she enjoys and she appreciates life more.
Agree? Agree
What
with
do you
it?
think? Yeah?
So you say you value life more.
You appreciate everything now than 2 years ago when we couldn't go nowhere, do nothing? Yeah, right? You can see your friends in school again.
Filming, what was it like being filmed and participating in the project?
What it was like being filmed was like something that you could be filmed, but it could be on Netflix or on every TV.
No, how was it like for them while you were doing your work and them going around you and filming you? How was it like?
Weird,
It was weird. Why was it weird?
because you have people around when you're doing your work.
But you have to do your work, right? You have to get your work done.
Daily routine.
That's it.
That's it. That's all you liked about the
Look up. Why are you looking down, Tatiana?
Well, I'm sure Tatiana will look back and like appreciate that her parents came back from work and still, after like night shifts, would still support her in her online learning. So she'll definitely have a great film to look back on. I wanted to thank all of our filmmakers and our guests and our filmmaking teams for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your films with the festival and with the world. And I'm looking forward to you all seeing each other's films.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Wait, Tati.
Bye.
Thank you.